Greetings, fantastic grade 5s out there. Do enjoy having you along for these maths lessons with me. Let's jump into the maths for today. The usual reminders at the start of the lesson. If you'd like to email me, it's grade5@worksheetcloud.com. I'm Mr. T or Mr. Travis. And after the lesson, click on that link above the video and do the worksheet just to make sure that you have got what it is that we cover in today's lesson. The next thing is our mental arithmetic for the day. 10 questions, which you get 40 seconds for. It's to wake our brains up. It's to practice those things that should become facts inside our head that we don't need to work out every time. Be aware of which operation it is that you're needing to do, whether it's plus or minus, times or divide. You get 40 seconds. Your time starts now. And stop. You haven't done this yet, or you shouldn't have, not necessarily would have done this yet at school, but if your teacher has covered square numbers with you, then perhaps these are familiar. But you don't need to know that. You can work them out anyway. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 9 is 81, and 10 times 10 is 100. If you missed any of those, just pause the video, rewind it, watch it again, mark it, see how you did. Here's the next thing. This one is relatively straightforward in that we don't have 1s or 2s of the same thing, as some of these do. But do be aware that we do have some other operations in here, like this division and this multiplication, and just be aware of BEDMAS, which tells us which order we would do this in. So would we do the subtraction first, or would we do the multiplication first? Right, because it's an easier one, I'll give you a little bit of time to do it, and then I will do it on the whiteboard. You can have until I've finished my tea. One thing to watch out for in this one is perhaps you don't do it in the order that it appears. You might have to do the third line before you do the second line. Okay, well, finished or not, I'm going to go through. So if you like a little bit more time, then you just pause the video. And when you're ready to carry on, let me know. So with this kind of problem, we always start on the one that has all the same, which means that we're going to start with the first line. We need to find 3 things that add up to 18. Things need to be the same because it's the same picture. If we divide 18 by 3, we get 6, which means that for every dinosaur we have, we can put a 6. Okay. Key thing to remember, you can only work out something when you've got only one missing idea. So if you look at this, we've got the missing idea of what the green dinosaur is. So we could work that out. This one, we have 2 things we don't know, so we can't work that one out yet. But this one, we only have this that we don't know, so that's the one we're going to work out next. So I've got 6 divided by something gives me 3. I hope that you'd be able to figure out that 6 divided by 2 would give you 3. So that means that this flying dinosaur, I won't call it a pterodactyl because it's not quite looking like that, but okay, the flying dinosaur, if you want to call it a pterodactyl, that doesn't matter. It's just a picture. Okay, so that would be worth 2. So now if we look at the second line, we now only have the one thing that's missing, and now we can work the second line out. So something minus 6 times 2 is equal to 3. Important to remember is that with BEDMAS multiplication, BEDMAS is the acronym we use to remember the order of operations. So we do times before we do minus. So I'm going to do my times. So 6 times 2 is 12. So something minus 12 gives me 3. So if I work backwards and add 3 to that, I can find that my purple dinosaur is 15. And let's just check that. 15 minus 12 equals 3. Okay, good. So now I know that my purple dinosaur is worth 15. I already see it if I write it on top on the dinosaur, so I'm going to write it above. Okay, so now we have these 3 here. When we've only got plus, we work from left to right. So 6 plus 15 is 21. 21 plus 2 is 23. And that's our final answer. Let's see what it is that we're doing today. So in one of our other lessons, we covered converting units of measurements. So that was looking at converting units of length, so centimeters, meters, kilometers, converting between those. We also looked at capacity. That's the one that has liter on the end, so converting between kiloliters, liters, milliliters. And we also looked at mass, which is what we understand as weight. So that's kilograms, so converting between grams and kilograms, and milligrams as well. So we had those acronyms that we used to remember them. All right, so so our goal is to practice practical conversions of units of measurements. When we say practical, that often kind of means we're going to be doing word problems. Okay, so here were the units again, just in order. We've got capacity with, that's liters. So kiloliters, hectoliters, decaliters, liters, deciliters, centiliters, and milliliters. Those are our symbols. Same with length, but with meters. Same with mass, but with grams. Just remembering our acronyms that our mnemonics that we use to remember that. So King Henry's daughters love delicious caramel muffins. King Henry's daughters make delicious caramel muffins, and King Henry's daughters gobble delicious caramel muffins. And that's how we remember the order, and that's how we can go through it. Okay, so let's have a look at some practical examples. So what if we were asked to find the perimeter of one of these shapes? Let's start off by looking at this one. I'll hide that one a little bit. So we've got the perimeter of a rectangle, but our rectangle has centimeters on one of its side and millimeters on the other one. And we need to find the perimeter. So that perimeter is the length of the outside. So it's not part of this lesson, but with a rectangle, we know that opposite sides of the rectangle are the same. So that this one at the bottom will be 60 millimeters too. And this one on the side will be 2 centimeters as well. They'll be the same because opposite sides of a rectangle are the same. Okay, so when we want to add those together, we have to make them the same unit before we add them together. So with the first one, we could actually go either way. I'm going to go both ways. So I'm first going to do one and then I'm going to do the other. We're using the length meter, so we're going to use our mnemonic with an M. Okay, there you can just see it on the side. So we've got kilometers, hectometers, King Henry's daughters make delicious caramel muffins. So there are our units of length: kilometers, hectometers, decameters, meters, decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters. So if you remember, when we're going this way from a big unit to a small unit, we put a 0 on. And when we are going from the small unit to the small unit to the big unit, we remove zeros. Oh, it's a little bit off the screen. There we go. Okay, so this is what we've got to do. We've got to either make it all centimeters or make it all millimeters. First up, I'm going to decide to make it all centimeters. So let's see, what do we need to convert before we start? we've got 60 millimeters, and we need to make that into centimeters. So what are we doing? We're going from millimeters to centimeters. So we're going up one level, and we're removing zeros. So we're going to take 1 0 away, and we've got 6 centimeters. So now that I've got them the same, I can do my workings out. I'm going to go the perimeter, or P, which I'm going to shortcut that a little bit and say that's the perimeter. But now I'm going to start with this one here. So 2 centimeters plus, I'm not going to write 60 over here because we've already found out that that's the same as 6, plus 6 centimeters plus 2 centimeters plus 6 centimeters. It's a little bit messy as it gets quite close to the rectangle, but the next line will be shorter, so I'm just going to persevere. 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 2 is 10, plus 6 is 16 centimeters. So the perimeter is 16 centimeters. An alternative for me to use is to say, actually, I don't want to work it out in centimeters. I want to work it out in millimeters. So this is a particular problem where you could go either way. In the next problem, you'll see that I can only go one way. But let me just work this out the other way so that we can have a look. All right, so I need to convert my 2 centimeters into millimeters. Well, centimeters to millimeters is one jump. I need to put one 0 on. So I end up with 20 millimeters. Now my perimeter is equal to 20 millimeters plus 60 millimeters plus another 20 millimeters plus another 60 millimeters. If you add that up, 20 plus 60 is 80, plus 20 is 100, plus 60 is 160 millimeters. All right. Now some of you might ask yourself, how can we have two answers that are right? But some of you may also have noticed that actually those two answers are the same thing. Because if we looked at 16 centimeters and we converted that into millimeters, that's centimeters to millimeters is one jump. We put 1 0 on the end, 160 millimeters. And likewise, we can go the other way. So whether you choose to work it out in millimeters or centimeters doesn't matter. You can end up with the same answer. Let's drag this across and have a look at the second one, which is quite a lot more complicated. All right, I have a bunch of different measurements over here. I have, let's start over here. I have, let's choose a different color. I have centimeters, kilometers, millimeters, and meters. Oops, millimeters and meters. So I've got 4 different units of length, and I need to have one in order to work it all out. Now you can try and convert them all to kilometers. But if you look at one like that, you see it's a bit difficult. So let me jot down my mnemonic again. So King Henry's daughters love, nope, not love, they make delicious caramel muffins. If I wanted to go like that green one that I just underlined, the 1,500 meters to meters, I've got to take away 3 zeros, and I don't have 3 zeros there. Once you've done decimals, you will be able to do that, but at this point you won't. So I can't go and put them all into kilometers. Let's see if I could put them all into meters. Okay, so that's the one we're going to try next. So we've got to try and convert them all to meters. Okay, so this one is already in meters. So let's actually number them so that we know where we're going. 1, 2, oops, I need to put a measurement in there. 3, no, let me put the measurement in quickly. All right, so we're going to make them all into meters. I can see that number 1, which I've labeled in the top left, that one is already in meters. Number 2 is in millimeters. So 250,000,000, and that was millimeters, and I wanted to make that into meters. All right, well, let's see. We were going from millimeters to meters. 1, 2, 3. 3 jumps. We get rid of 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. So we now have 2,500 meters. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 4 happens to be the same as well. Okay, so number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those are the 8 different measurements. So number 1 was already in meters, so we didn't have to change it. So 1,500 meters. Number 3 is already in meters, so we don't have to change it. We can work out number 4, but you might notice already that it's exactly the same as number 2. So we don't really have to work it out. We've got it written down already, so 2,500 meters. Number 5 is in centimeters, so 100,000 centimeters. And we want to make that into meters. So centimeters to meters. 1, 2 jumps, we take away 2 zeros, and we are left with 1,000 meters. Number 6, it's in kilometers, so we're going to have to convert it. So 3 kilometers, and we want to make it into meters. So we're going from kilometers to meters, 3 jumps down, which means we add 3 zeros on, 3,000 meters. Number 7 is already in meters, and number 8 is also already in meters. Okay, now we have all of them in meters. So what we're going to do is just do a simple addition. It is, well, I say simple, but it is quite a few different things that we're adding. So I'm going to lay it out nice and neatly and then add it. I'll just pause the video while I write down. Right, so we've got them all written down underneath each other. All of the meter measurements, remember. I'm going to do vertical column addition, like we've done in one of the other lessons. So all noughts add together to naught, all noughts, still naught. 5, 10, 15, so 5, and we carry a 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 6, and carry a 1. So 16,500 meters is the perimeter of that shape over there, that awkward looking shape that we've added all the sides together. Okay, so all we needed to do, and that was quite a complex one, that's probably harder than you'll get from your teachers, but we needed to make sure that all of the measurements were in the same unit before we added them together. All right, let's, in fact, I'm going to just move this a bit down so it's not quite so in the middle of all the other stuff. Looked a bit busy on the screen there. Okay, so you have a cool drink glass, 340 ml cool drink glass, and you pour yourself a 340 ml glass of cool drink from a 2-liter bottle, and I want to know how much cool drink is left in the bottle. So how are we going to go about that? Make that a little bit bigger for you. All right, well, we have something in the bottle, and we take some out, so that's going to be a minus sum, or minus problem. So we had 2 liters, and we minus 340 milliliters. All right, so once again, before we try and do that, we're going to need to make those units the same, because how can you minus 340 from 2? Well, I hope by now that you're getting familiar with your acronym. So King Henry's daughters love delicious caramel muffins. So kiloliters, hectoliters, decaliters, liters, deciliters, centiliters, and milliliters. Right, we wanted to go from liters to milliliters, so that's 1, 2, 3, which means we're going to put 3 zeros on. So we get 2,000 liters minus 340. Sorry, that's not liters, it's now we've converted it, it's milliliters minus 340 milliliters. Okay, So now we just need to do a simple subtraction. So I'm going to lay it out neatly like this. So 2000, I'm going to do column subtraction, minus 340. Oh, I'm drawing with my other finger down below there by mistake. All right, the first one is pretty easy. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 4 we can't do, we have to borrow, but there's nothing over here to borrow from, so we're going to have to go all the way over to here to borrow. So we cross out the 2, it becomes a 1. That becomes 10. We now borrow from the 10, and that becomes a 9, and this becomes a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 9 minus 3 is 6. 1 minus nothing is 1. So we have 1,660 milliliters left in the bottle. Let's have a look at the second one, which is again a problem with the 2-liter bottle and capacity. So this time we have a 200 ml glass, and we want to find out how many times we can fill it from a 2-liter bottle. So we're trying to see how many times does 200 fit into 2 liters. Well, we're going to have to make that liter into a milliliters again. So 2 liters becomes 2,000 milliliters. Now we want to find out how many times does 200 fit into 2,000. So 2,000 divided by 200. Right, so we haven't done long division, but we did do tricks with division, and we can know that if we treat it like that, it's the same. So we can remove the same number of zeros from each, and our answer will still be the same. So I've got to ask, how many times does 2 go into 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20? It goes in 10 times. 10. All right, now it's not milliliters because we wanted to know how many times did the milliliters go in. This was milliliters. Right, if you want to think of it like this, then the milliliters cross each other out as well, but perhaps don't think of it like that. Just think of it, we're actually looking for a number of glasses, and so it'd be 10, not 10 milliliters. So the answer is that we can fill it 10 times from the bottle. Good, good. Let's go on to a couple of examples that use mass. Let's jot down our acronym on the left-hand side. Now, our mnemonic. So, King Henry's daughters gobble delicious caramel muffins. So this is mass, so it's going to be grams at the end. Right, so a bag of nails weighs 2 kilograms. If your DIY project at home uses 375 grams, how much does the remainder weigh? Okay, so we had 2 kilograms. We need to take away the 375 grams that we used. Now we can't do this with kilograms and grams, so we need to make the one into the other. The easiest is to make the kilograms into grams, because otherwise you haven't learnt decimals yet, so that won't help you. So we're going from kilograms to grams. 1, 2, 3. We're going to put 3 zeros on. So 2 kilograms is equal to 2,000 grams minus 375 grams. Now we can do our subtraction. So writing it out neatly, 2,000 minus 375. So we're going to go 0 minus 5, which we can't do. We're going to have to borrow all the way down there. So that becomes a 1. This now becomes a 10, which we cross out, and it becomes a 9, and that becomes a 10, which we borrow from, and that becomes a 9, and that becomes a 10. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 7 is 2. 9 minus 3 is 6. 1 minus nothing is 1. So we have 1,625 grams left. Okay, this next one, Dad buying some meat. Okay, so Dad buys a big piece of meat, a nice slab of steak, which he's going to cook on the braai. He buys a whole kilogram, and he wants to share it out equally with a family of 4. We will assume that in this family, everyone gets the same amount. So we need to share out our kilogram by 4. So we've got to divide 1 kilogram. Let's actually write that 1 kilogram by 4. Now, I don't know how good your maths is. Are you able to divide 1 kilogram by 4? So you could say that it was 1/4 of a kilogram. All right, but I think let's rather do it the way that we're practicing. And that's to say, well, 1 kilogram we can convert to being grams. All right, so we were going from kilograms to grams. So 1, 2, 3, from kilograms to grams. So we're going to put 3 zeros on. So 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams, and we're dividing that by 4. Shift back this way a bit. All right, so that's a short division problem. We make our bus stop. We ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 1? It doesn't, so we carry the 1 there. We now ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 10? And the answer is 4, 8. That's twice. But we haven't used all of it. We still have 2 left over, which we take to the neighbor. We ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 20? And the answer is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. It goes in 5 times with nothing left to give to the neighbor. So we then ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 0? That's like sharing nothing between 4 people. Everyone still gets nothing. All right, so 250, which means that each of the steaks that Dad cuts up to share among the family is 250 grams. All right, so practically, when it comes to measurement and working with measurement, what we just need to remember is that we need to make all of the units the same before we try and do whatever operation it is that we're going to do with it. So make them the same and then do it. Remember those mnemonics. That's how you remember to convert between all of them. So although we don't use them, you've got it there. When you've done decimals, what you can do with it becomes even more exciting. I know that's a very nerdy maths thing to say, but I get excited about it because you can do more things with less work. And I think everyone can get excited about that because it gives you shortcuts. That's it for today, for this lesson. If you'd like to email me, just a reminder, it's grade5@worksheetcloud.com, and do that worksheet. Make sure you've got this. Practice, practice, practice. That's how we get good at maths. Have a fantastic day, grade 5s. Goodbye.